Crescent City Connections is a startup business that provides the turnkey New Orleans volunteer experience in an efficient and mutually beneficial way for clients in the community. C3 NOLA is made up of 3 Tulane students, 2 MBAs and 1 undergraduate. Together, we have over 15 years of experience organizing volunteer groups in the city and working with hundreds of nonprofits and over tens and thousands of volunteers. Essentially, we are New Orleans' one and only volunteer coordination and management organization. Our experiences led us to identify a large disconnect between potential volunteers and nonprofit organizations. First, there is no one single organization that connects these two parties. Additionally, there is no mechanism to ensure that these volunteer events are mutually beneficial for both parties as well. As a result, we've created Crescent City Connections to bridge this gap between volunteers and nonprofits by creating customized volunteer experiences. To do this, we started with some very simple and initial hypotheses. First, lots of groups visiting or already in New Orleans want to volunteer in New Orleans. We also assume that these very same groups are either unaware of or unable to locate available volunteer opportunities, and that the task of finding these opportunities can be especially challenging and time-consuming. On top of all of that, if these groups are indeed successful in finding a volunteer experience, there's no way that they can ensure the quality of this volunteer organization. As a result, these groups either do not volunteer at all, or if they do, they spend a lot of time researching, calling, and emailing to find these opportunities. So we started to reach out to our potential customer segments to test our hypotheses. In our market survey, we reached out to various businesses and corporations, either visiting or currently in New Orleans, to see if they would be interested in volunteering. We also surveyed youth groups, high schools, and universities coming to New Orleans to better understand their volunteer interests and needs. And finally, through a partnership with the New Orleans Convention and Visitors Bureau, we also polled conferences and conventions coming to New Orleans to gauge their interest. This process reaffirmed the problems that groups face with volunteer coordination and management in New Orleans. As a result, the question we then needed to ask was how much these groups would be willing to pay us, if at all, for our services. So to test our hypothesis of whether or not they would pay, we built a list of potential clients and talked to dozens of key stakeholders to gain some initial input before doing a larger outreach. From these conversations, we created various one-pager prototypes for our customers and a website, and we sent them out through our list and waited to see who replied. While we didn't include exact prices, we did simply want to gauge initial interest from these groups and then follow up with those who reached out and talk more about our specific services and if they'd be interested in buying them. And from these conversations, we discovered a lot. First, large and international corporations already had entire staffs and committees dedicated to organizing and finding volunteer days and were not interested. Also, very small businesses of approximately less than 10 people really didn't have the time to volunteer. But mid-sized and growing businesses were very interested. Schools were also in very high need of our services, and conferences and conventions were also interested depending on what type of conference it was, whether it was a trade show or a medical conference. And so some facts that remained to be uncovered were what specific and additional services could we provide to these specific groups in order to seal the deal. In the end, our ability to provide stress-free, turnkey, awesome volunteer opportunities and management did indeed nail some of these groups' pains as they requested and even some booked our services at full cost. While some of our initial assumptions were proved wrong, many were proved right. Some of the largest assumptions we made regarding target markets, unfortunately, were proved wrong. We thought large businesses would be most interested in our product through their corporate social responsibility program, but again, there wasn't much interest there. We also thought specifically that new businesses coming into New Orleans would be interested in our services as a way to engage the local community and get some positive marketing as well, but we were wrong there as well. However, we were right that already interested volunteers need a way to engage with nonprofits interested in working with them. And this is where we made our first major pivot. We decided to focus all of our efforts on the groups that were already actively interested in volunteering as opposed to simply trying to convince other groups to volunteer. So let's call these groups our early adapters. And we went after them. Our business model really revolves around building a strong network of partners with a diverse group of nonprofit and for-profit organizations here in New Orleans. Once we have these in place, we can start to reach out to our clients. From our research, we were able to identify two valuable services provided that can either be offered together or separately. The first is simply coordinating volunteer events for groups, which means for a limited cost, we will match groups' volunteers' needs with organizations that can meet their needs at a set per person price, which really varies depending on the time of year, how far out the event is, and how many people are in their group. The second service, which is paired with the first, is providing day of support with the volunteer event. This can include anything from arranging transportation and food, along with providing supplemental activities such as educational, cultural, and historical discussions and tours, and team building activities. We're even able to provide multi- and social media documentation of their day, along with various merchandise opportunities. The pricing for this second service varies depending on what services the group requests. For all of our groups, we provide a qualitative and quantified measurement of the impact of their volunteer experience and continued communication regarding their impact and also future opportunities in New Orleans. In light of our outreach and communication with our various clients, we've had a lot of evidence that shows we've provided a tangible solution to most of our target markets, as evident by the fact we've actually successfully booked several paying clients for March and beyond. These include mid-sized businesses, high schools, colleges, and even conferences. Additionally, we've been lucky enough to do 3 pilots of our services thus far with 3 different groups of various sizes and nature. The first was a small business from Baton Rouge where they helped build houses in Gentilly. The second was a young professional network of educators that helped set up a school. And the third was a youth conference which did a variety of programs with over 650 participants that we helped organize. So we've figured out that our estimated total available market is 10 million people here in New Orleans, with 9 million visitors coming to visit the city a year and a metropolitan population of 1 million people. And we've estimated our served available market at roughly 4 million of these 10 million people. Based on our specific findings, our target customer segment markets will be first conventions and conferences, then youth groups and certain businesses. In order to get more decision makers and influences on board from these target markets, in order to create sales, we are going to create an intensive partnership and referral network of businesses and hospitality partners that can send groups to us. These include hotels, event planners, destination management companies, tour companies, professional associations, and concierge associations. These are people that when groups come to town, they go to these different people looking for authentic and meaningful things to do in New Orleans. And if these people could then let these potential clients know about our group, our business would be helped significantly. We also are going to reach out to these segments directly. With conferences, we need to approach the conference organizers. With schools, we're going to approach the administration of these schools. And with the businesses, we're going to target specifically the HR, marketing, and management departments. The best way to engage these groups is through a combination of strategized business-to-business marketing and personal relationship building. So overall, we learned that our service is in demand, but that some groups simply have a budget and other groups simply don't for volunteering. We need to find a simplified message for our services. And also, these events are very time consuming with large costs, so we need partnerships with suppliers to stay profitable. Finally, we need to engage our clients months in advance in order to book these clients. In closing, Crescent City Connections team looks forward to expanding upon our findings and legitimizing ourselves as a sustainable and scalable business. This seed funding from the competition will help us recruit more clients and build more partnerships through a launch event and marketing campaign to recruit more businesses.